So as most of you guys already know, the latest trailer for Marvel and Sony's upcoming Spider-Man movie, Far From Home, dropped not too long ago, and holy shit, this trailer has way more in it than anybody thought it would. I mean, first it drops massive endgame spoilers like right at the beginning, but then it goes and blows everybody's minds by casually revealing that we'll, apparently, finally be seeing the introduction of the multiverse in the MCU. During a moment when Peter and Quentin Beck are officially meeting for the first time, both Beck and Nick Fury reveal that Beck is from another universe, with Beck specifically mentioning that the MCU is Earth 616 and his home universe is Earth 833 in a separately released clip.
Mr. Beck is from Earth, just not ours.
This is Earth, Dimension 616. I'm from Earth 833.
Fun fact, Earth 833 is also the home of Spider UK in the comics. The more you know. Seriously though, as cool as it is that we're finally starting to get more direct confirmation about a live-action version of the multiverse, this isn't actually anything new. Believe it or not, but we might have actually gotten confirmation about the MCU version of the multiverse all the way back in 2013's Thor: The Dark World, where we can see the words 616 Universe scribbled among some of Eric Selvig's notes on the blackboard in the background. Keep these in mind, we're going to be coming back to them later in the video. Now, as cool as all this multiverse talk is, it did leave a lot of people with some pretty big questions, one of which being, what in the flying f*** is Mysterio talking about? See, Earth 616 is the main universe most of Marvel's stories are set in the comics, while the MCU has previously been referred to as Earth 199999. Now, Marvel has had similar looking universes pop up over the years, but as we've seen over and over again, you can't have two universes numbered the same way. So what's the deal with calling the MCU Earth 616? Well, assuming Mysterio isn't just making shit up, a very likely possibility to be honest, then it seems like Marvel's operating under the idea that every set of their properties, like movies, comics, TV shows, either is connected in a single multiverse or has its own separate parallel multiverse, with the main universe in each particular multiverse being labeled Earth 616.
I'm so damn confused.
Alrighty, let me back it up a little bit. So let's say this is the universe where Marvel comic books take place, the traditional Earth 616, where a ton of people have superpowers, giant robots go hunting for other people with superpowers, even though there's really no difference between their powers and other sets of powers, and literally everybody's died and come back to life at some point, except for Uncle Ben. Now here's Earth 1610, better known as the Ultimate Universe. In this universe, the Avengers are called the Ultimates, Mr. Fantastic eventually turns evil, Iron Man was basically a brain in the shape of a person until he wasn't, and Spider-Man dies and gets replaced by Miles Morales, even though it turns out he's immortal anyway, which is incredibly stupid. There's also tons of other universes we could list here, like the one where mutants rule the world, or where Steve Rogers became Iron Man instead of Captain America, but the point is, this huge collection of universes we've seen through Marvel's 80-year history is what's known as a multiverse. A lot of the details in these universes may be similar to each other, but every one of them is at least a little bit different, and most of them have crossed over in some way over time. Sometimes though, we have examples of another multiverse that doesn't really gel with a previously established multiverse, like all this stuff Mysterio's been saying in the MCU, again assuming he's telling the truth, or even in the Arrowverse, since they've been calling their main universe Earth 1, even though that was the main Earth DC had been setting their stories in the comics on for a good number of years.
Direct from Earth 1.
Probably one of the best examples I can mention here though is the movie Into the Spider-Verse. Remember how a bunch of different spider people from across the multiverse crossed over and had this big adventure? Well, if you do, then you might remember how we also got to see which universes they were originally from, like Peter B. Parker being from Earth 616 or Miles being from Earth 1610. The thing is though, neither one of these guys are from the Earth 616 or Earth 1610 established in the comics, which we know since, among other things, Miles got his powers differently in the movie than he did in the comics, and as far as I'm aware, mainstream Spider-Man never got all fat and depressed like he did at some point before getting roped into the events of the movie. Plus, none of these spider people act like they've ever met each other, which they would have had to have done since Marvel brought them together a few times in the comics already, so there's that too. I've heard a bunch of different terms to describe this grouping of different multiverses, like macroverse or megaverse, as mentioned in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, but the idea is always essentially the same. You have a universe connected to a bunch of different universes, and sometimes you also have an entirely separate universe connected to a bunch of other entirely separate universes. Make sense?
I get it. I don't get it.
So that's pretty much it. That's the multiverse and how it seems to work in the MCU. Now, I know there are a few holes in this theory, but until we get some official confirmation either way, I personally think grouping certain adaptations together and saying they're their own separate multiverses, rather than being part of one giant multiverse, makes way more sense to me and has way fewer plot holes. Just a quick note though, I realize we already heard about alternate realities and the multiverse from the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, but the way she's using those terms, it comes across more like she's referring to alternate dimensions and timelines in the main MCU, rather than a completely separate universe with both of those things, as explained to comic book readers for years now.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
Having said all that though, we still have no idea how somebody like Mysterio managed to cross over from his universe to the main MCU. We know thanks to Nick Fury that there's a hole in reality somewhere,
The snap tore a hole in our dimension.
but that doesn't really tell us much. What does that mean exactly, and how does that work? Well, if you still remember those notes on the blackboard from earlier in this video, then you might also remember the term Nexus of All Realities scribbled on there too. In the comics, the Nexus is a portal located in the Florida Everglades, which really anybody can use to travel between different universes at any point in time, assuming you can get past the Man-Thing guarding it. And of course, on top of the Nexus being mentioned in Thor: The Dark World, we also get a direct reference to the Man-Thing in the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Who or what is a Man-Thing?
So with all of these references to the multiverse and the confirmation from Nick Fury, the guy who's usually in the know about most things in the MCU, I'm assuming that the snap really did open a hole in reality, probably in Florida, and Mysterio really is from some other place in the MCU multiverse, which may or may not tie into whatever long con he's pulling in Far From Home. Of course, as mentioned earlier, he could also be lying, or somebody at Sony screwed up again and just got Jake Gyllenhaal to say some numbers they thought sounded really cool. Wouldn't be the first time Sony fucked up something Spider-Man related, right? But anyways guys, that's my take on the multiverse as it seems we'll be seeing it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.